Pressure. Pressure is everywhere. And no, I'm not talking about the pressure exerted on us by air particles. No. I wouldn't want you to be bored until you would say, Sarah, stop talking. We don't want to hear another physics lecture. No. No. I'm here to talk to you about the social pressure stemming from the expectation that others place onto us. A study conducted by a Pew Research Center stated that 61% of American teens who took part in this survey faced the pressure to excel academically. Sometimes such pressure can even lead to us imposing pressure onto ourselves because we're so used to feeling it coming from others. And this, in turn, could lower our self-esteem to the point where lacking confidence becomes a natural occurrence. For me, it all started in my high school junior year, which is the year when I tend to think about my future a lot. You think, wow, I'm graduating in less than 2 years, and I need to make sure my portfolio looks good. And if you're like me and you're self-critical about yourself, you'll start thinking that you're not good enough. You can easily be discouraged when you see a friend achieve something that you haven't. It's not that you're not happy for them, and it's not that you think you deserve it more than them, but you're asking yourself, if they can do it, why can't I? You're putting pressure onto yourself, and over time you're engulfed in this ocean of negative thoughts. I should have put more time and effort into this. And you'll work harder the next time, alright? But you're getting stressed, and you're losing all the enjoyment that comes with doing that task, rather than using it as a source of motivation. Over time, you'll find that you're losing the drive to do anything at all. You're sitting there in front of your desk, and you're doing it, but there's no productive output coming out of it. And that's when you know you're going through a burnout. According to Psychology Today, a burnout is a period of stress, regardless of whether it is physical, mental, or emotional, and it stems from prolonged or repeated stress causing exhaustion. Simply put, it is a period of time when you can't seem to find the enjoyment or the motivation in all of the things that you do. This extends for days or even weeks, and is anything but comfortable to live with. Everything, including your daily chores, becomes meaningless, and you're simply living through each day without purpose. The notion of burnout is getting more and more significant as time passes because students are continuously facing this problem, whether they know it or not. Students are so badly overworked sometimes that they neglect their entire health and well-being. Understanding what a burnout is and taking the time to acknowledge you're going through it is way better than not knowing why you feel so drained or exhausted all the time. We tend to think that this is simply a period of demotivation or a period of stress, and we ignore it as a result, when it's actually much more severe than one would think. Because when you're going through a burnout, chances are everything becomes a massive obstacle course. Recovery isn't something that's in plain sight, but that's not to say that it's impossible to reach either. Many students will tell you that whenever you're facing problems like these, it's best to approach someone who you trust and talk to them about it. But that doesn't always work out the way you want it to. You see, the thing with emotional and mental problems is that they're not as clear-cut as physical ones can be. So you're going to have a tough time explaining yourself to that trusted person of choice, and they in turn won't be able to help you as effectively because they don't understand your situation as well as you do. Another thing is that it's not ideal for students like us to take day offs either, when we literally have assignments and projects piling up every single day. We can't just recalibrate our minds to focus on our mental health, even if that is the most practical thing to do in this situation. Furthermore, this accomplishment factor also comes into play here. Whenever we've achieved something, we tend to do better the next time, knowing that we've already attained that certain degree of success. But burnouts hinder such progress because we wouldn't have the drive to do anything at all in the first place. I've tried all of these methods, and none of them worked for me. So I just gave up. But eventually, Eventually, during the Chinese New Year, when my family and relatives had to stay home to celebrate, I realized that the only thing I needed to do was stop isolating myself and start engaging with them, spending time with them, rather than constantly cooping myself up in my room and forcing myself to do work without rest. Mind you, I am very much an introvert at heart, so you could say that it was rather peculiar or unusual. However, that celebration did remind me that we're all humans, and all humans are social beings. As much as we think we can survive alone, we can't. We wouldn't, even if we tried. Within those 15 days of the Chinese New Year, I finally started to find purpose and meaning in all the things that I do again. Another thing I did was lower the expectations that I had set for myself. It wasn't easy, I'll give you that. And I'm not saying that setting up your expectations high is necessarily a bad thing, but setting your bar too high can cause even greater disappointments if you can't reach it. I've gotten myself involved in far too many activities than I can count and expected to do well in all of them, which was realistically impossible. So what I do now is I will sort out which things are more important to me and which I can set aside for later. This method of sorting out your priorities really clears up your mind and it ensures that you're not biting off more than you can chew. I've also set aside some time in the morning to read books. Reading books is a hobby that I've had for the longest time, but have not been able to do because I was so fixated on completing assignments and schoolwork that I've entirely abandoned this hobby of mine. When I picked it back up a few months ago, I realized how refreshing it is to wake up to fresh pages of books, rather than simply sitting there and staring at the glaring screen. That rhymed, didn't it? Lastly, I've tried to work the accomplishment factor into my favor. Instead of simply working on a 10-page essay within a single day, I split it up into chunks and spread it out throughout the entire week. Once I've accomplished my task for that day, I can rest assured knowing that I've done something, and that's way better than not having done anything throughout the entire day. However, do bear in mind that there is no one-size-fits-all solution to problems like burnouts. What worked for me may not work as well for you. I'm not saying that you shouldn't try any of these methods because who knows, it might work for you. But what I am saying that if none of these methods have worked for you, it only takes a bit more exploration, trial, and testing at times in order to find that best coping mechanism for you. Burnouts are not a rare occurrence. They can happen to anyone and everyone, especially when you least expect them to. But by accepting it for what it is and taking the time to acknowledge you're going through it, you can emerge from it to become a better person. As Winston Churchill once said, success is not final, failure is not fatal, it is the courage to continue that ultimately counts. If you're brave and you're willing enough to take a step out of that negative spiral that burnout creates, you can beat it and you can move forward. Thank you.